the 3-cent code that exposed a $400 million fraud. The CEO slammed his fist on the mahogany desk so hard that my coffee cup jumped. "It's just 3 cents. Stop wasting my time with this nonsense." His face was red, veins bulging from his neck. I'd never seen him this angry over something so small. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. My name is Emily Parker, and until 2 years ago, I was a junior accountant at Frontier Capital Management, one of the biggest investment firms on the East Coast. I handled spreadsheets, reconciled accounts, did the boring stuff that nobody else wanted to do. I was invisible, forgettable, just another woman in a gray cubicle on the 14th floor. But that invisibility is exactly what let me see what everyone else missed. Let me take you back to where this all started. It was a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because Tuesdays were always slow, and I actually liked that. Less meetings, more time to actually focus on my work. I was going through the monthly expense reports for one of our subsidiary companies, a real estate holding firm called Apex Properties, LLC. Most people would just scan these reports, check if the numbers matched, and move on. But I had this habit, kind of obsessive maybe, where I liked everything to be perfect. Not just close, perfect, down to the last cent. And that's when I saw it. A discrepancy of 3 cents. Transaction ID 847392B showed a payment of $47,299.97 to a vendor called Silver Lake Consulting Group, but our purchase order system showed the invoice amount as $47,300, 3 cents off. Now, I know what you're thinking. 3 cents, really? In a company that moved hundreds of millions of dollars every quarter, 3 cents was basically nothing. It was a rounding error. It was less than the dust in the corner of the office. But here's the thing about accounting. The numbers always have to match. Always. That's not me being picky, that's just how it works. If they don't match, there's a reason, and you need to find that reason. So I did what I always did. I started digging. I pulled up the full transaction history for Silver Lake Consulting Group. They'd been receiving payments from us for about 8 months. Nothing huge, mostly payments in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. Consulting fees, apparently. Strategy work, market analysis, that kind of stuff. But here's what caught my eye. Every single payment to Silver Lake was off by a few cents. Not the same amount each time, sometimes 3 cents under, sometimes 7 cents over. Once it was 12 cents under. I checked our other vendors, hundreds of them, construction companies, legal firms, marketing agencies, janitorial services, you name it, we paid them. None of them had these discrepancies, not one. Only Silver Lake. I sat back in my chair and stared at my screen. My gut was telling me something wasn't right, but I couldn't figure out what. I mean, why would anyone care about a few cents here and there? It made no sense. Unless it wasn't about the cents at all. I spent the next 3 days living in those spreadsheets. I created a separate file, isolated every single Silver Lake transaction, and started looking for patterns. I mapped the payment dates, the amounts, the invoice numbers, everything. And then I saw the pattern. The discrepancies weren't random. They were a code. Let me explain how I figured this out. Each discrepancy amount, when you looked at it as a number by itself, corresponded to something. 3 cents could mean transaction type 3. 7 cents could mean routing code 7. It was like each cent amount was a signal, a marker. But a marker for what? I started cross-referencing the payment amounts with the discrepancy amounts, and that's when things got really weird. When I removed the cents from each payment and looked just at the dollar amounts, they formed sequences. Sequences that when I added them up in groups based on the cent markers, created new numbers entirely. These numbers were account numbers. Foreign account numbers. I sat there at like 10 o'clock at night in an empty office staring at my screen, and I felt this cold wave wash over me. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't sloppy bookkeeping. This was intentional. Someone was using these tiny discrepancies to hide information in plain sight. They were laundering money, and they were using a code embedded in the cents to track where it was really going. I didn't sleep that night. I went home, but I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What was I supposed to do with this? Tell someone? Tell who? I was a junior accountant. I'd been there less than 2 years. Nobody listened to junior accountants, especially not women who'd barely proven themselves. And more importantly, who was behind this? Was it someone in accounting? Someone higher up? How high did this go? The next morning, I decided I had to tell my direct supervisor, Robert Mitchell. He'd been with the company for 15 years, worked his way up from an entry position. He had a reputation for being fair, even if he was a bit dismissive of younger employees sometimes. But I had to trust someone. I knocked on his office door and he waved me in without looking up from his computer. "Robert, I need to show you something. I found some irregularities in the Apex Properties accounts." He glanced at me with that look I'd gotten used to, the look that said he was already half convinced I was wasting his time. "What kind of irregularities?" "Payment discrepancies, small amounts, but they follow a pattern. I think someone might be using them to hide information." He leaned back in his chair and gestured for me to continue, but I could tell he wasn't taking me seriously yet. I pulled up my laptop and walked him through everything I'd found: the Silver Lake payments, the cent discrepancies, the pattern, the foreign account numbers. As I went through each slide, his expression changed. The skepticism faded, and something else took its place: concern. Real concern. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Emily, this is serious. If what you're saying is true, this is fraud, major fraud." "I know. That's why I'm bringing it to you." He nodded slowly and, "Okay, I need to take this upstairs. Don't talk to anyone else about this yet. Let me handle it through proper channels." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I'd done the right thing. I reported it to my supervisor, and now it was in the hands of people who could actually do something about it. That was Friday afternoon. Monday morning, I got called into a meeting. Not with Robert, with Richard Voss, the CEO. His office was on the top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than my car. I'd never been up there before. I'd seen Richard maybe 3 times in person, always from a distance at company events. His assistant showed me in, and there he was behind that massive desk looking at his phone. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Sit," he said. I sat. He finally looked at me, and his expression wasn't friendly. There was something else there, too, something I'd seen in male colleagues who didn't like being challenged, especially not by women. "Robert tells me you've been making some wild accusations about our payment systems." "Not accusations, sir. I found discrepancies in the accounts, and I thought they should be investigated." "Discrepancies." He said the word like it tasted bad. "You mean 3 cents here and there in transactions worth tens of thousands of dollars." "Yes, but the pattern suggests—" "The pattern suggests nothing." His voice got louder. "You know what the pattern suggests to me? It suggests we have a junior accountant who doesn't understand how real-world business works. Maybe you should spend less time looking for problems that don't exist and more time learning how things actually work around here." The condescension in his voice made my stomach turn, but I kept my composure. "But, sir, I cross-referenced the—" That's when he slammed his fist on the desk. "It's just 3 cents. Stop wasting my time with this nonsense." The rage in his eyes wasn't normal. This wasn't a busy CEO annoyed by a waste of time. This was something else. This was fear disguised as anger. And in that moment, I knew he was involved. Maybe he was running it. Maybe he just knew about it. But he was definitely involved. "I'm sorry, sir. I just thought—" "You're not paid to think. You're paid to process reports and keep your head down. Do you understand me?" Every fiber of my being wanted to argue, to defend myself, to point out that thinking was exactly what good accountants did, but I bit my tongue. "Yes, sir." "This conversation never happened. Those spreadsheets you made, delete them. And if I hear that you've been spreading rumors or making trouble, you'll be looking for a new job. Are we clear?" Crystal clear. I left his office, took the elevator back down to 14, and sat at my desk. My hands were shaking. I thought about all the times I'd been dismissed, all the times my concerns were brushed aside because I was young or because I was a woman or because I didn't have enough experience. I thought about how easy it would be to just let this go, to keep my head down like he said. But then I thought about $400 million being stolen. I thought about whoever that money was being stolen from. I thought about what kind of person I wanted to be. I opened my email and started typing. Not a work email, my personal Gmail. I sent copies of everything to myself. Every spreadsheet, every analysis, every piece of evidence I'd found. Then I deleted the copies from my work computer, cleared my trash, even cleared my browser history for good measure. That night, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine I barely touched and tried to figure out what to do next. I'd reported it internally and got threatened for it. Richard Voss had basically confirmed my suspicions by how he reacted. But now what? I could walk away, forget I ever saw anything, keep my head down like he said, keep my job, keep my paycheck, pretend those 3 cents didn't mean anything. Or I could report it to the authorities. The problem was, I didn't know who to trust. If this thing went high enough to include the CEO, who else was involved? What if I reported it to the wrong person and they just buried it? What if they came after me? My best friend Sarah called that night. She could tell something was wrong. Em, what's going on? You sound stressed. I wanted to tell her everything, but Agent Kim's warning echoed in my head. Don't talk to anyone. Just work stuff. It's complicated. You need to take care of yourself. Don't let them push you around just because you're new. After we hung up, her words stuck with me. Don't let them push you around. I spent 2 days paralyzed by indecision, going through the motions at work, barely eating, barely sleeping. Then on Wednesday, I read a news article about a whistleblower who'd exposed fraud at a pharmaceutical company. The article mentioned that she'd reported it to the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. They have a whistleblower program, protection for people who report financial crimes. That was it. That was my answer. Thursday morning, I called in sick to work. Then I drove to the IRS field office downtown. I brought a USB drive with all my evidence and a printed summary of everything I'd found. The agent who met with me was named Sarah Kim. She was maybe in her 40s, sharp eyes, no-nonsense attitude. I liked her immediately. Finally, someone who took me seriously from the first word. I told her everything, showed her everything, walked her through the exact same analysis I'd shown Robert and Richard. Unlike Richard, she didn't yell, she didn't dismiss me. She listened carefully, asked good questions, took notes. Miss Parker, what you've brought us here is compelling, very compelling. We're going to need to investigate this fully, and that's going to take time, weeks, maybe months. During that time, you need to act completely normal at work. Don't give any indication that you've reported this. Can you do that? Could I? I wasn't sure, but I nodded anyway. Yes. Good. We'll be in touch. And Emily, you did the right thing coming here. A lot of people in your position would have walked away. I drove home feeling like I might throw up. I'd just reported my employer to the IRS. I'd just become a whistleblower. My life was about to get very complicated. The next day I went back to work and tried to act normal. I processed reports, reconciled accounts, responded to emails. Everything felt surreal, like I was playing a character in a movie. Friday afternoon, Robert stopped by my desk. Hey, Emily, you feeling better? Yeah, just a stomach bug. I'm fine now. He lowered his voice. Listen, about that thing you brought to me last week, I wanted to apologize. I should have fought harder for you. Richard shut it down hard, and I should have pushed back. I looked at him carefully. Was he fishing? Did he suspect I'd done something? It's okay. He was probably overthinking it. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded. Okay, well, if you ever need anything, you know where to find me. The weekend was torture. I kept expecting a knock on my door, a phone call, something, but nothing happened. Monday came and went, then Tuesday, then Wednesday. 48 hours after I'd met with Agent Kim, everything exploded. I was at my desk when the first black SUV pulled up outside the building, then another, then another. Men and women in windbreakers with big yellow letters started filing into the lobby. IRSCI, criminal investigation. People started standing up, looking out the windows, whispering. What was happening? Was this a surprise audit? Then agents started going floor to floor, office to office. They had boxes. They were taking computers, files, everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Agent Kim. Stay calm. Stay at your desk. Don't talk to anyone about your report. 2 agents came to my floor. They walked straight to Robert's office, then to accounting, then to the executive floor. 30 minutes later, Richard Voss was escorted out of the building in handcuffs. The whole office went silent. Our CEO arrested, just like that. Over the next few hours, 7 more people were arrested. The CFO, 2 senior accountants, 3 people from our real estate division, and the head of vendor relations. They'd all been involved. The whole thing was bigger than I'd even realized. Silver Lake Consulting Group wasn't a real company. It was a shell. Money was being funneled through it to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Cyprus. The cent discrepancies were exactly what I thought they were, a code to track which offshore accounts received which portions of the money. Over 8 months, they'd moved more than $400 million. $400 million. And it all started to unravel because I noticed 3 cents. The IRS ended up freezing all the offshore accounts, recovering most of the money. The criminal investigation led to indictments for 11 people total. Richard Voss got 15 years, the CFO got 12, the others got various sentences. As for me, I ended up getting a whistleblower award from the IRS. I can't tell you the exact amount because of confidentiality rules, but let's just say I don't have to work as a junior accountant anymore. But more than the money, I learned something important. Details matter. The small stuff matters. Everyone was so focused on the big numbers, the millions and billions flowing through the company, that nobody was looking at the cents, except me. I also learned that being dismissed or underestimated doesn't mean you're wrong. Sometimes it means you're seeing something that powerful people don't want you to see. And sometimes the best thing you can do is trust yourself, even when everyone else is telling you to back down. Sometimes the biggest frauds hide in the smallest numbers, and sometimes being the person who cares about getting things exactly right, even when everyone else thinks you're wasting time, is exactly what the world needs. Those 3 cents changed my life. They exposed a massive fraud, took down a corrupt CEO, and taught me that sometimes the things that seem too small to matter are actually the things that matter most. Oh, and Robert? He wasn't involved in the fraud, but he left the company a few months after everything went down. Last I heard, he's working for a nonprofit now. I think the whole thing shook him up, made him want to do something that felt more meaningful. I get that. These days, I work as a forensic accountant, helping investigate financial crimes. Turns out there's good money in being the kind of person who obsesses over 3-cent discrepancies. And I've made it my mission to mentor other young women in finance, to tell them that their instincts matter, that their voices matter, even when they're the youngest person in the room. And I sleep a lot better at night knowing that the numbers I'm checking might actually save someone from getting ripped off, might expose corruption, might make things a little more fair. Because at the end of the day, justice isn't always about the big dramatic moments. Sometimes it's about a woman in a gray cubicle on the 14th floor who notices that 3 cents don't add up and decides to do something about it, even when powerful men tell her to shut up and sit down. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this. Don't ignore your gut. If something feels wrong, even if everyone else is telling you it's no big deal, even if it seems too small to matter, trust yourself. Investigate. Ask questions. Don't let people bully you into ignoring what you know is true. Because those 3 cents, they mattered. They mattered a lot. And whatever small thing you're noticing that doesn't quite add up in your life, your work, your world, it might matter too. If this story taught you something, hit that subscribe button.
Thank you for watching. Don't miss out on new stories. Make sure to hit that subscribe button.